morning, one and all. Today we have with us Gaurav Vohra, the CEO and co-founder of Jigsaw Academy, along with Sarita Digumarti, the co-founder and COO of Jigsaw Academy, a UN Next company. So I'd like to begin by asking you, Gaurav. Jigsaw Academy is an award-winning online analytics training institute and is acknowledged by blue chip companies for quality training. Can you please describe the basic concept and some of the unique features that Jigsaw Academy offers?
Sure, Bipasha. So we are essentially in the professional skilling space, and we focus on emerging technologies areas. So what we do is we are training our workforce of today on skills of tomorrow. So when I talk about skills of tomorrow, I'm talking about technologies like data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing, cybersecurity, IT full stack. These are all technologies that are in huge demand right now, and we are seeing the demand growing even further over the next 18 to 24 months. These are skills that are very important today, of course, especially if India wants to continue to be the global hub, for IT services. The traditional IT skills and services that were in demand, that have kept us as the global hub, last 15-20 years, are now gradually fading away, and these new technologies are coming in. So we are training the workforce in these new technologies. We are helping bridge the demand supply gap in these new areas. And one of the key things that we are doing is, because these are emerging technology areas, the pace at which things change is very fast. In technology anyway, things change at a rapid pace, but in emerging technology areas, things change even faster. And typically, our academia is not able to change at that. They are not able to keep up with that pace of change. And what we are trying to do is we are essentially trying to bring the academia and the industry together, so we can so our students can have the best of both worlds. They can learn their concepts through a rigorous academic curriculum, but they are also able to learn the most relevant and in-demand skills through some of the industry practitioners. So Jigsaw programs are a mix of industry as well as academia. That's what Jigsaw Academy tries to do: bring the best of both worlds for our students. And as part of that, we have collaborations with some of the top universities in India. We have 3 programs with IIM Indore. We are on the verge of launching one more, and we have plans to launch a couple more over the next 6 months. We have a couple of programs with Mahe University as well. So we have very strong academic partners, and we have very strong industry partners that we bring together, so our students can actually learn from industry practitioners as well as academicians. We, of course, have a very strong connect with companies, companies like IBM, Infosys, McKinsey, Ernst & Young, Deloitte. They are all our clients. We train their workforce on these emerging technology areas. So very closely linked with the industry as well. And so that's essentially the whole premise behind Jigsaw.
Absolutely. The next question is to you, Ms. Sarita. It is a general perception that studying is a task to be done when one is young. And without being explicit, even the classroom system expects the same. However, when studying online, this particular barrier is broken and people of all groups can study without any hesitation. What do you have to say regarding this very fact in context with Jigsaw Academy? What age group of students is the most common, and why is it so?
Okay. So it's an interesting question. Our experience actually is that, when we focus on emerging technology sort of areas, a large majority of our participants tend to be people who are already working. And they tend to be working in, white collar sort of roles, engineering, technology, functional roles. And I think there is a realization for all of them that the way we work now is very different from how people used to work 30 years ago. And a big big change is that there is just a lot of change. There is a lot of change in sort of the technology you use. There's a change in the processes. There is a change in domain. So people understand, I think, that constant learning is a given, right? So I think to a large extent our audience comes in wanting to learn, and our job is to make sure that we help people who maybe have not stepped into a classroom for a long time sort of really figure out how to make them learn in an engaging and interesting manner. But certainly, I think most people now in careers understand that learning is a constant. And the age of you learn a certain set of skills and then you use them for the next 30 years in your career is long gone. Our skill sets now probably have shelf lives of 3.5, 4, 5 years at the most, right? You have to constantly keep learning, unlearning, relearning. And that is something that we have a lot of experience in making sure that we provide the pedagogy, we provide the kind of right platforms, we provide the right kind of environment for people that haven't really stepped into a classroom for a long time to sort of learn effectively. And we have a lot of experience in being able to do that online. We started as an online company. This was before Coursera. So, we have a lot of experience in sort of online pedagogy, how to ensure that there is no learner left behind in an online sort of setup. How do you make sure that people, that you're able to give people the comfort of learning at their own pace, but at the same time being able to finish, in a certain specific period of time. We have a lot of experience with that.
Right, right. So, considering this question as a prologue to my next question goes something like while it is often reinstated that online education can never match the classroom experience, however, the COVID pandemic has forced the world to try out the online world. And many who disapproved of the online education system are now enthusiastic supporters. So, what do you think about this shift? Has Jigsaw Academy been a witness to this very situation? Has there been a change in perception between pre-pandemic times and pandemic times slash post-pandemic times?
So I'll get started and Gaurav, please add. See, we were always an online training company. At least we started by being very firmly online only. And over time, we've realized that, it's probably not fair to do an online versus offline comparison because they are different. And there are places where offline works better and there are places where online works better. But certainly, it is not true to think of online as a poor substitute for offline. I mean, that is definitely not true. The reality is that, for many of our audience, an offline course, is difficult. You are working, you don't want to spend another 2 hours, 3 hours commuting to get to another place to sort of really, get to a classroom. You get really tired. In online education, there is a lot of convenience. There is a lot less stress. There is also the fact that typically you have access to content in video format, so you're able to review and sort of go through the lectures when you want. If let's say you haven't understood something very clearly, very often you end up having the option of being able to review the lecture again, right? So I think the reality is that yes, there is space for offline and there is space for online, and we do both. We do both. But for the vast majority of learning needs, especially the rate at which technology is changing, the rate at which people have to learn new skills, online is really the most convenient and I would say feasible option for people to learn. And Gaurav, please
Yeah,
add.
I agree with that. I think it depends on what life stage you are at. If you are um, in your school, or if you're doing your undergraduate or graduation, you are in a stage where you are expected to devote a significant time of your day to study. You are in that life stage where studying is your primary goal. At that stage, of course, the classroom environment with all the classroom interaction that comes with the in-person environment is very important, and I think that that experience is, of course, better for students. But for us, the primary audience is not people who are in their life stage where they studying is the most important thing. For us, the audience is people who are now working. They have gone through their first 20 years of their life. They've done their studies and now they are working professionally. And because the skills that they picked up are not relevant anymore or as relevant anymore, they need to upskill themselves, they need to reskill themselves. But at the same time, they have a lot of competing priorities. They have their work, obviously, which demands a lot of time. They have families which demand a lot of time. They may have children. They may have parents that they have to take care of. So, with all those competing challenges, online education, in fact, is a far superior way of learning for them than in person. There are a lot of advantages to it. If you live in any big city, especially in Bangalore, commute times are can kill you. And online education, of course, helps everyone cut down on their commute times. Even the time, the slot for studying doesn't need to be fixed. You may have live online classes at certain times which you have to log in, but there is a lot of self-paced content that you can go through at any time. So we know of students who wake up at 5 in the morning, and before everyone in the family gets up, they finish all their studies. There are others who prefer to do it late night when everyone has gone to sleep. So all those options are there in online learning, which are definitely not there in offline learning. So for a certain section of people, that section, of course, is becoming larger and larger and more important now. For them, online learning is easily the best way to learn.
Correct.
I just want to add, I just want to add one thing. I think also these comparisons of online versus offline, we have to understand that they are very different ways of teaching and engaging with the class when it is online versus offline. And sometimes online gets a bad rap because you are essentially taking methodologies and tactics that work for an in-person classroom, and you're trying to use it as is in an online environment, and that's not going to work. Online requires you to teach differently, to engage differently, to plan differently, to structure your content differently. If you do it that way, then certainly I think a lot of people do realize that there is a lot of value in online education.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of what we are reading about online education is more a knee-jerk reaction to how the last 1 year has been. What has happened in the last 1 year is that a lot of people, a lot of institutions that were not geared towards online education, that were not prepared for it at all, were forced into it because they didn't have any other choice. And because many of them were not prepared for it, they tried to use the same methodology, the same pedagogy that has worked in offline programs. And of course, that doesn't work because online has its own challenges. But for someone like us who's been in the online training for last 10 years, 11 years, I think this has just shown people that done the right way, online education can actually be far more effective for learners.
Right. Mr. Gaurav, can you please tell me the state of digital education in India? What kind of courses amass the maximum enrollment and are the most successful ones? Also, please touch upon how the digital education industry has grown over the years. Are the same courses in demand that were, let's say, 3 or 4 years ago, or the state is very dynamic in its approach?
Mhm. Yeah. So as I said, the maximum, the most amount of demand we see is for programs in emerging technology areas. So when I talk about emerging technologies, data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence have been on the top or the most sought after technologies for more than a decade now. There has been a huge demand for these technologies for the last 10 years, and the demand continues to increase. So that's where we see the maximum amount of demand. We also see a huge demand for IT full stack. That's also another technology that is very much in demand and not enough people. Cloud computing in the last couple of years, especially post pandemic, has emerged as the area which has seen the maximum increase in demand in the last 12 months. Huge demand for cloud resources. Companies are begging us for people with these skills, and they are finding it very hard to fill their pipeline. And so these are programs that are hugely in demand. Cyber security, product management, of course, are also areas where there's a lot of demand. From the last few months, we've started seeing huge demand in IT sales. People who have the selling skills in the IT sector. Again, there's a lot of demand for it, and we've recently launched a program with IIM Indore on strategic sales management, which is specifically targeting this demand. Um, as I said, emerging technologies have been in demand for the last 10 years. But what technology is in demand keeps changing. Of course, data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence have been on the top for the last 10 years consistently. But even within these technologies, the kind of skills people need to pick up, the kind of tools they need to master, the kind of technologies they need to have experience on, have all changed, have all evolved rapidly in the last 10 years. So the first program that we built for data science focused on a tool called SAS, which was the most in demand tool at that time. Now SAS has very few takers. It has been replaced by open source technologies like R and Python, and of course big data technologies like Hadoop. And so within data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, what we teach, the technologies that we teach, the mix of technologies has changed significantly in the last 10 years.
I see. Um, so, my next question is to you, Ms. Sarita. As a part of UNext and backed by Manipal Global Education Services, how has the financial journey been with Jigsaw Academy? What are some financial and investment related challenges that Jigsaw Academy has faced in the last 10 years?
Okay. Um, for both Gaurav and I, this is, we didn't really have any prior experience of startups, right? Both of us have had corporate experience for quite a bit before we decided to start Jigsaw Academy. And maybe we were very naive, but our focus, at least when we started, was not really around how large can the company become. It was more around, we saw a clear need for training working professionals on, in application oriented areas, which was not happening in the academic space. And we started with data science because that's our background, and we clearly saw the challenge there. So our focus was on just creating, quality programs that people, in fact, globally would appreciate. Now, of course, I think in terms of timing, we were also lucky. We started at a time when online education was just very much in its infancy. Like I said, we were pre-Coursera. So over time, obviously, a lot of people saw the potential in this. We ourselves understood that there is a large sort of market for quality education in these industry-oriented emerging technology areas. And so, obviously, after about the first couple of years, then we also sort of focused on growth. But we've always been careful about putting quality and satisfaction over growth. So while we've grown quite a bit in the last 10 years, I think one of the things that has helped us from an investment perspective, Manipal was our first investor. We were bootstrapped for the first 5 years, and they were our first investor. Is, I think, the sharing of a common long-term vision, which is to understand that in education, it takes time to build brand, it takes time to build growth, and it's a little dangerous to sort of go after growth without focusing on, what is the value of your product and the quality of your product. So yes, it's been interesting. EdTech has seen a couple of booms. We are, I think, seeing another boom right now. Lots of EdTech players are raising money. And I think that is just a signal for how how large the potential is, especially in India, right? We have a large set of people that are graduating that are not really employable, and we have a large set of working professionals that are working, but they understand that they need to constantly keep skilling, in order to sort of stay in the job market and in order to build their careers. So yeah, I think there is a large addressable market, but I think it's very, very important to sort of build quality products, and that's been our focus, right? And so from a UNext perspective, I think there is a lot of similarity in vision. Manipal as a group, is known for quality education. They've been around for a very long time, and their vision is to build something that stands for reliability, for quality, for trust, and that is also what we want to do. We grow, but we want to grow in a manner that is satisfying for us and for our